Hello, everyone, and welcome to Friend Diagram. This is the podcast where two friends catch up and find common ground between their favorite media. I'm Remy.
I'm Kat, and today we will be discussing the Apple Original film Fingernails and the HBO Max Original series Starstruck. Warning, spoilers ahead.
Hi,
Hi,
Kat.
Remy. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I'm good. It's just been a pretty chill Sunday.
Yeah, I'm having a really nice, me time Sunday.
Yeah.
We're doing errands, but also just hanging out, tying up some loose threads, trying to work on some writing again, which you've been really good about reminding me to do, which has been very helpful. I appreciate it very much. And I had a good time writing yesterday because while I was doing it, I was like, yeah, this feels really good. I like it when this actually feels good to be actively working on it. So that's always nice.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I didn't really get up to too much this weekend. We played some Alien Isolation, which was great.
Mm-hmm.
I've been really enjoying that. And then we watched X last night, which was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed
Love that movie. So fun.
Yeah.
Mia Goth.
Yeah. So the reason I wanted to watch it was because we had tangentially talked about Jenna Ortega. And I realized...
You and me. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And I realized that I hadn't really seen her in anything other than Wednesday. And she has such a muted performance in Wednesday. It's very emotionally flat.
Mm-hmm.
And I was I'm really curious to see what she normally acts like in different roles. So I really enjoyed her in X as well. She was really good in that.
Yeah, I remember being pissed off at her character, but I think she was really good.
Yeah. In what part?
I'm trying to remember. I don't know. Anytime she was adversarial towards Mia Goth, I was like, get her out of here.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had a lot of fun with that.
You should have come with me last night to the early access screening of Saltburn.
Yeah, I am still so curious what that's even about.
Yeah.
Because the trailer does not give too much away, I feel like. Just kind of sets the vibe.
It's so annoying when trailers give you the entire 3-act structure and tell you everything that's going to happen. That annoys me.
Yeah.
So I love it when they're more mysterious and just give you the tone and the general subject. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a blast, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah. I considered speaking on it for my topic this week, but I think I want to see it another time.
Mm-hmm.
But I could definitely speak on the experience being very fun. I would say Saltburn is Emerald Fennell's second film, and her first film was Promising Young Woman, which was divisive, and Saltburn is also proving to be divisive with, festival crowds and early screenings and all of that. So I think that's just sort of a label she has as a filmmaker so far, as a divisive filmmaker, kind of a provocateur. Mm-hmm. And I think as long as you go into it having the mindset that this is going to be a fun ride, then that's all you need. When I was entering the AMC, there was a long line of people waiting to have their ticket scanned to get into the theater. And the person scanning the QR codes would tell you your movie and the theater number you're going to. And 10 of us in a row were all going to Saltburn, probably because the time had already started, the previews were rolling. And so we were all arriving. And he was very excited for us to all be going to Saltburn. And he scanned my ticket and he's like, are you ready to go see Barry Keoghan do his thing? And I was like, oh yeah.
That guy should listen to our pod.
He should. I was like, how does he know?
You need to start taking Venn diagram stickers with you to the theater and like giving them to the staff and be like, listen to our plot.
I should do that. I should. Every time someone correctly reads what I'm there for, I should give them a sticker. Because I could definitely... I was like really pleased he said Barry and not Jacob Elordi, because I'm not there for Jacob Elordi. Yeah. Even though he's great and he's been in every movie, I feel like he's everywhere I turn now. Probably just because I just saw Priscilla, and obviously he's quite prominent in that as Elvis.
Yes. Makes sense.
But yeah, he's doing a great job, and I had such a good time. I think it's a perfect 2-drink movie where it just hits even better if you've had 2 drinks before you see it. And definitely see it with a bunch of people. There was so much collective laughing, collective gasping.
I love that.
And collective squirming in my showing.
Gross.
It was great. Yeah, there's one scene where everyone was like, no, please don't do what I think you're about to do.
Oh, no.
And then it happens, and everyone was like, no.
Yeah. Oh, man. Well, if you want to go see it again, I'm down.
Oh, I totally would.
Yeah, I'll come into the city and see that.
Yeah. Probably don't see it with your parents if you have the option. I would say this is not a movie to see with your parents. This is a movie to see with your friends after 2 drinks.
I love that. Yeah, I loved when you texted me and said, well, I got here 30 minutes early, so obviously I have to go get a margarita. I was like, I know. You've got to.
I mean, how else do you kill 30 minutes before Saltburn?
Also, usually you're running way late for a movie, so I was like, yes, reward this behavior.
Yeah, it was one of those situations where I got to the subway station and I could hear the announcement on my train announcing the next stop. And so I like scampered down the stairs and ran across the platform and skidded into the car, and then the door shut. And so I had accounted for like waiting for the train for 12 to 15 minutes. And that's why I was so early, because I just like ran straight on.
Well, everything was in your favor then.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you had so much fun at that. I've been curious about it, but a little hesitant until I hear more.
Oh, yeah, it's a blast.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, it's not going to change your life, but it's going to be a really fun time.
I love that. Mm-hmm. Well, if we want to jump in for the day, I've got another film that won't change your life, but is a very enjoyable ride.
Tell me about it.
I watched the film Fingernails. It just started streaming on Apple TV, and it's had a limited run in theaters for the last couple of weeks, which have provided pretty mixed reviews. It has a little over 60% on Rotten Tomatoes right now for critics and 55% for audience, which I was kind of surprised by. And I think that one of the main qualms that people have with this movie is that it's not necessarily the most original concept of like technology versus human experience and human life.
I see. Mm-hmm.
I think that it had a lot of really interesting ideas that I enjoyed exploring in the film, and I will definitely tell everyone a little bit about, I don't know, the thoughts I was thinking.
Mm-hmm.
But just to give you a basic rundown, it was directed by Christos Nikou. It stars Jessie Buckley, Riz Ahmed, and Jeremy Allen White, one of my faves.
That's a killer cast.
I know, and they're all amazing.
They're all so good.
Yeah, one thing that has been really consistent with the critic reviews is that all of the acting was fantastic.
Oh, I absolutely believe that. Those are all phenomenal actors.
Yeah, and as a brief rundown of the plot, there is a new technology within like the last 5 years that allows individuals in relationships to test to see if they are in love with one another or if they're like meant to be. And to do this test, you have to get one of your fingernails pulled out. And
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of like really uncomfortable fingernail.
So you really need to want to know.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. And You get your fingernail pulled out and it goes on like a little petri dish and goes into this thing that looks like a kind of an easy bake oven, but big. And it like,
it's like a nano drop.
It starts smoking. It's not meant to be funny, I don't think, but for me it is. No, I think it's funny. And then it like has this panel up above the easy bake oven thing, that tells you your results, and your results are a percentage. And the percentage is either 0, 50%, or 100%, which is an interesting,
very interesting
percentage range.
Yeah, it didn't have to be percentages if there's only 3 outcomes.
Yeah. So 100% means that both people are in love and compatible. 50% means only one person is in love in the relationship. And then 0% is neither people are compatible.
Interesting.
And I think it's a really interesting choice. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but we're following the journey of Anna with this test. And so she is with her long-term boyfriend, Ryan, who's played by Jeremy Allen White. And they took the test 3 years ago and had 100% compatibility. And since that time, they've kind of shifted into a familiarity and a rhythm that makes Anna a little bit discontent. So she is feeling like, oh, is something missing here? And so she has been thinking about this, and it doesn't seem to be bothering Jeremy Allen White's character, Ryan. And so she secretly applies for a position to work at the testing facility and does not tell Jeremy Allen White about this, like, application. She doesn't want him to think like, oh, I think something's wrong with our relationship, even though she clearly does think that.
Okay.
And she gets the job and she starts working with Riz Ahmed's character, Amir. And they basically work with couples through these exercises to try to bring them closer before they take the test, to increase their chances of getting a 100% result. And through this, it kind of brings them closer, Anna and Amir. And Anna thinks that she might have feelings for Amir. And she's like questioning whether or not, like, you can love more than one person. If I got a 100% positive with my boyfriend, Ryan, why do I feel these feelings for Amir? And so it's kind of exploring that love triangle that's been done a million times in a new and interesting way. And I think that this movie is like really slow and contemplative. And it just like gives you a lot of time to think about what I think that there's a lot of subtext, a lot of things that aren't being said out loud that you kind of have to interpret. And I think that it gives the audience time to really chew on that if you're willing to chew on that and like play with that idea. And so I really enjoyed my experience, and I thought that there were a lot of really interesting implications that come from this love test premise. And I think that something that's really important here is that we as the audience are never told the science behind this machine and why fingernails. And it's like giving very like pop sci vibes. And I think that this plays into some takes on corporations using your feelings and your fear to kind of act in a predatory way towards individuals. So because we don't know how this machine works, we don't actually know all of the variables that it's weighing to determine whether or not someone's compatible. And so we can imagine this world where people are scared to be with the wrong person, that they would take this kind of test without asking too many questions. They just want an answer, and they want to say like, oh, we're 100% meant to be together. So like, we're not going to question it. This is great news. This is such a vulnerable aspect of our lives, and people are so averse to heartbreak that they would rather take a test like this and be told yes or no before they have to go through the real pain.
Well, it also sounds like people are so desperate to avoid doing the analysis themselves and having to like dig in and decide for themselves, because there's certainly a chance you won't avoid heartbreak. Yes. And so people will pull out their own fingernail for basically like an easy bake slot machine to say whether or not their relationship is viable over just like deciding for themselves.
Yes.
And having the confidence in your own assessment.
Yes.
Before, pulling out your fingernails. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I think that there's kind of a potential chain reaction that can happen to a relationship in the case of positive or in the case of negative. So if positive, first and foremost, couples feel relief and they feel like safety in their relationship. They feel like, yes, this is confirmed. I know that I'm supposed to be with this person. But then you can get into this sense of complacency, which stunts any kind of growth. Like if you take this test, so, I mean, if you've been with a person for a long period of time, even just 5 years, right? You're going to change over the course of those 5 years, and you have to be able to grow together in your relationship. But if you've been told, like, you're compatible, you're meant to be together, I think it stunts all of that growth that should be happening and prevents you from seeking that out. And we see that a lot with Jeremy Allen White's character and Jessie Buckley's character, where she's lying to him. She's like not talking about problems that might be in their relationship. And he's also not wanting to like go do the exercises that she had suggested they do, all of like the couples counseling type things. Cause he's like, why do we need it? We took the test. We're compatible. And then they're not engaging with each other about that. And then it also spins off to create a stigma. So if you have conflict in a relationship that has a positive result, then you feel like you have to hide that with your friends and family. You can't talk about it because you're meant to be compatible. So it teaches you that there's something wrong with you, right? So I think that all of these thoughts are really interesting to explore. Yeah. I really liked all of them. And I also really liked the option of if it's negative, because when people, it's like really sad because these people go through all of these like exercises to bring them closer together, and they'll be like, I feel really confident. Like, I feel like we're really strong. And then they do the test and it's a negative result. And it's basically like a immediate no. And they're saying like, nope, we're not compatible. We can't try to work through this. We can't try to be together. And it doesn't matter if they have a kid together. It doesn't matter if they've like gone through all of these life steps. It seems like all of these people are just immediately breaking up or getting a divorce. And that's really sad. But if you're taking the stance that I am, that the test doesn't work, and I think that's the stance you're supposed to be taking, is that like maybe the test works, but it's on such a level that you could not draw real meaning from that into your relationship. And I think that it's important to think about, because they talk about how often people get a negative result and it's really, really high. But how does that benefit the corporation? If you get a 0%, you're more likely to come back and try it again and keep spending your money and keep spending your money. And Amir's character says that he's done it multiple times. He like has talked about how he just could not get a positive result with anybody. And I think that this is how the corporation is preying on people's fear of loneliness and their desperation. And it's just trying to keep pulling them back in through this cycle until they get a positive result, which is really sad. And yeah, I'm filling in a lot of blanks here. If you've seen the movie, like, I think I'm extrapolating a little bit, but this is how I interpreted it. And I really enjoyed that interpretation. I liked thinking through all of that, and I found it really stimulating. Some other things that I liked about this film, is that there's a little bit of Luke Wilson in the film. Love Luke Wilson. Big fan.
I remember seeing him in the trailer.
Yes. He's not a large role in it, but I'm just happy and thankful to see Luke Wilson on the scene play in some interesting parts. and I especially liked him in this. And I thought that all of the acting was incredible. I've already touched on that, but they all knocked it out of the park, and especially Jessie Buckley is absolutely unhinged in this film. Like, she is just, I don't know, it's hard to watch, and I think that her lack of likability is something that kind of drives audience members away a little bit, because you're like, why are you acting in like this totally self-destructive manner? Why can't you be reasonable?
So you're not exactly on her side the whole time, even though she's the main character?
She is the main character for sure, but I would say that it's hard to watch anyone like lie to their long-term partner about a job interview, like, so, and it's like a deep lie. It's like a multiple levels lie. Like, it lasts for a long time, and then eventually she confesses, but it's like, I think she falls prey to the trap of like, this could be solved with one conversation, but you're insisting on taking the long way around, and it's like breaking everything, and only people are going to get hurt. Like, so many people are going to get hurt because of your actions. And so she's just really hard to like, because she just isn't doing decision making in a way that I think is productive.
Well, that's also very consistent with my perception of her as an actor as well, because I think she is an exceptional actor, but she never shies away from taking roles that are easily unlikable characters. Like, she plays a lot of thorny, unsympathetic, or like potentially unlikable to some audience members characters so frequently. Like, in the majority of things I've seen her in, she's been a character that you're not exactly meant to like. And I think that's one of the reasons why her performances are so strong, because she leans into that unlikability and that complicated portrayal of how everyone is, you know? Like, no one's completely likable, and she absolutely embraces that in the choices she makes. She's so good.
I mean, it felt really realistic. Like, her, like, it wasn't necessarily that you don't like her as a whole, but you don't like what she's doing while you're watching it. You're saying, like, this is a person I can relate to, and I can see myself in their shoes. But then she's doing things that you're like, oh boy, I really wish you wouldn't. I really wish you would just chill. That's
a lot of those feelings I agree with when I was watching her performance in The Lost Daughter. Have you seen that?
I haven't.
It's really good. It's got Olivia Colman and Jessie Buckley and Dakota Johnson in it. It's really good. It's from, I want to say 2022 or 2021. It's good stuff. But Jessie Buckley's character, I feel really sympathetic to why she feels the way she does, but she still makes a lot of decisions that are hard to, back her up on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And her ending, the ending of this film, I thought was really good, but it's also just like unhinged. It's like, why would you decide to do this thing?
Ooh, fun.
So I really liked it, and I thought she did just such a good job. I especially liked Amir, like, I feel like it's unfair because Jeremy Allen White's character doesn't get a lot of screen time because he's meant to be like this person that she doesn't really have chemistry with, and it's like an old relationship, and so you don't get to see very much of them like growing to love each other. There's not like flashbacks or anything, which I think could have benefited the film. But I think that Amir and Jessie Buckley, Jessie Buckley's character, Anna, have really good chemistry, and they're both putting in the work to make it feel like a real relationship, which I like. But yeah, I mean, I think that it's a solid film. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which I think executed a little bit better. But yeah, I mean, definitely solid, definitely gave me a lot to think about. And it wasn't like a level of intensity that I find really unbearable in a film, if that makes sense. It was like just slow and contemplative, but not a lot of like screaming fights or anything like that. Like it was just letting the audience think about things in a really relaxed fashion, which I enjoyed. But
yeah, I like that too.
Yeah, it was cool.
Have you seen I'm Thinking of Ending Things?
I haven't. I saw that the other day. Who's in that? Why would I have been
Jessie
searching
Buckley.
them? Oh, okay. That's why.
Yeah. And Jesse Plemons.
Oh, really?
But I was reminded of it because you brought up Eternal Sunshine of a Spotless Mind. And I actually, maybe I should double check this. Because I'm Thinking of Ending Things. I thought Charlie Kaufman wrote that screenplay. But I guess I should double check. Oh, it's directed by Charlie Kaufman and screenplay by Charlie Kaufman. Okay, yeah. So that was a correct association. Good.
Gotcha.
That is definitely like a way more uncomfortable version of Jessie Buckley questioning being in a relationship. But yeah, I don't know. I think she works well in that type of psychological questioning screenplay, because like Charlie Kaufman, that's like his whole deal is making, I don't know, psychologically complicated and form challenging screenplays, you know, like he did Adaptation, that Nick Cage film.
Oh yeah.
Spike Jonze, and just a bunch of like really interesting portrayals of human neuroses and and the depths of the human psyche on screen. So I wonder if that would be worth checking out for you.
Yeah, I definitely want to see more of Jessie Buckley's work. I really liked her in this. And yeah, excited to see what she does next.
My favorite performance of hers recently was in Women Talking. Have you seen that?
No, I haven't seen any of these.
Oh, dude, it's so good. It's a 2022 film by Sarah Polley. And I just watched it a few months ago, actually. I didn't catch it when it came out. But it was nominated for Best Picture, but was like one of the more quieter, you know, nominations for that group of films. But I watched it, I believe, on Amazon Prime, and I was blown away by it because I understood the conceit of it is that there's a group of women in a very strict, very isolated Mennonite community, and there have been a series of sexual assaults in the community, and they are discussing amongst themselves what to do about it. And the general decisions are like, we stay and try to deal with it, we leave, or we stay and do nothing. And where most of the movie is rhetorical arguments for each of those three options and people weighing in on what should be done and how and why. And it's got a ton of insanely good performances, like Claire Foy and Rooney Mara and Jessie Buckley are the ones that spring to mind, but particularly Jessie Buckley because she plays one of the least likable characters and is so good. She is incredible in it. Ben Whishaw is really good in it too, actually. So I thought it was going to be really dry because I knew it was so dialogue heavy because it's like literally a rhetorical exercise in a way, but it was way more exciting and dynamic and visceral than I was expecting. And I think it was incredible. And I've been considering talking about it on the pod for a long time now. But yeah, definitely if you're looking for Jessie Buckley performances, check out Women Talking.
That sounds great. Yeah, I mean, give it a watch. If this sounds up your alley, Jeremy Allen White, always up my alley. So add it to the list, I mean. But yeah, And it's streaming. It's on Apple TV Plus right now. So I would recommend taking a look at it, even if you've read some reviews that might make it seem like it's not your vibe.
Yeah, I'm definitely interested in checking that out. My pick is the HBO Max original series Starstruck. This is a romantic comedy series that is created by, written by, and starring Rose Matafeo. And I believe she directs a number of the episodes as well.
Wow.
It's been running for 3 series/seasons now on HBO Max. And the 3rd season just wrapped. And I believe that is going to be the final season, I think, just based on how all of the character arcs wrapped up. So I don't expect there to be any more seasons, but I've been waiting to talk about this because I knew there was more forthcoming and wanted to be able to talk about as much of it in a holistic sense as possible. But I started watching it when it first came out in 2021, and these are really nice short episodes, pretty short seasons. I think each season is only 6 or 8 episodes, and the episodes run around half an hour. So it's a really quick, fast watch. And the series is centered on Rose Matafeo's character, Jessie. And she is a New Zealander. As both you and I know, Rose Matafeo is from New Zealand because we have loved watching her on Taskmaster. And that's one of the reasons I started watching Taskmaster, actually, is because I saw Rose Matafeo was in it. And that's why I started watching her series. Series 9 was the first one I ever watched, I believe, because I was like, oh, Rose Matafeo from Starstruck. I'll check this one out. And yeah, it's just like a wonderfully watchable show. You watch Jessie. She's a New Zealander who's living in London, and she lives with her best friend, Kate, who's played by Emma City. And the premise of the show kicks off in the first episode that takes place on New Year's Eve, where Jessie meets this man, Tom, in a bar, and they end up sleeping together. And the next morning, she realizes that he's a famous movie star. And it sort of unfolds from there, where you're watching Jessie and Tom run into each other and have chance encounters or intentional encounters throughout the time span of a year. So they meet on New Year's Eve. The next episode, I believe, is called Spring, and there's summer, autumn, winter, and I think a couple holidays in there. And you watch these two people that have really great, amazing chemistry sort of ping-pong around based on the circumstances of their lives. And a lot of it is having to do with bad timing or miscommunications or circumstances that are both inside and outside of their control. So you get a huge variety of different stressors on their burgeoning relationship. And I particularly like this show, not just because it is very watchable and easy to get through and just have a thing that it's not terribly heavy, but it is easy to get emotionally invested in. And I think that is because it does a lot of the stuff that rom-coms typically, in my assessment, don't do well. I usually steer away from that genre, but this is an example of a rom-com that I think does a lot of the things. It executes the genre really well in a way that I find lacking in a lot of other rom-com material, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely.
So, for example, the comedy is actually really good. Rose Matafeo, she's a stand-up comedian. And so obviously she has a huge hand in writing these episodes, and I think they're definitely funny, especially from the point of view of millennial women, which both you and I are.
Yes.
So it's definitely aimed right at us as a demographic, I believe. But it does a lot of great plotting in terms of never the right time plot lines, where I really like those kind of plot lines because it's more fun to be aspirational and root for these people to be together instead of it being too easy and they like get together right away and then it's easy streets from there, and that's not interesting at all. You want to see like things where like they're so close and then something goes wrong and then everything's ruined and then so we have to try again next season. I love that. I think that's great. And it has really great supporting characters. I mentioned Kate, who is her best friend and flatmate. I have watched this a couple of times now, and now with like each rewatch, I appreciate the character of Kate more and more. I think Emma City is extremely funny, and her character is incredible. And I don't know how to encapsulate why I think she's so funny, but her performance is just amazing. And Kate is really endearing and strange, but also calls Jessie out on her shit a lot, which I also really like. I mean, that's the perfect best friend counterpoint that you can have in a rom-com where they're actually telling the main character, hey, like, you're fucking this up because of this flaw that you have that I can always see. And so it's my job to tell you, which I love. But she does it in a really funny and just strange way. Another thing that I like about how the show executes the genre is that Jessie as a main character is a still only partially formed adult in that she is still kind of messy and doesn't have her shit together, but not in a tropey kind of way where you don't really believe that this person cannot function in this way. Like, she's clearly functioning in her life. She just doesn't have a life that is fulfilling in the way that she wants it to be. And you see how the choices that she's made and the character traits that she has kind of directly contributes to that messiness. Which is just to say that, like, she's a believable representation of a messy character that doesn't have it all together. But despite that, she has really great chemistry with the character of Tom. And I think the character of Tom Kapoor, he is another example of a good execution of the rom-com genre because you actually get a full sense of who he is over the course of the series, in that you get insight into his family life and his work life and his relationship with his agent and how he's dissatisfied with a lot of the acting jobs that he's getting because he wants to be taken more seriously, but everyone just wants him to do action movies. And, you know, like, he worries about whether he's doing good art or good craft and all of that. So you actually get like a full vision into his insecurities from work and family life and how that plays out in his decisions in his romantic life. And so you get like an actual full sense of him as a person and a character, rather than in some like rom-coms where the person that you're rooting for the main character to be with is just kind of an idea of a character, but you don't know anything else about them other than when they're interfacing with the main character. And with Tom Kapoor, we actually, you know, see scenes that are wholly his own. We watch him go home to his family or go have lunch with his agent, or him having a bad day on set or something like that. And so I like that they actually treat him as another complete character. And that's one of the reasons why when you're watching these different plot lines unfold, you understand why everyone is acting in the way that they are, and like why they might be a little more volatile, and that leads to an argument that leads to this terrible misunderstanding, or whatever main blow up is happening in that episode. And that allows you to have understanding and empathy for both of the characters involved. And so you're always still rooting for them and still understanding why sometimes they might have to take time apart and things of that nature. So you're never like mad at anyone, but sometimes you're like, man, I wish this hadn't happened this way.
I wish I could mediate this conflict.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, I mean, it just has like a great balance of really funny side characters that are unconventional but believable as real people, but they're also just complete weirdos. And the series is richer for that and more funny, and it's just a really, really enjoyable show, and I absolutely wholeheartedly recommend it to anyone. This last time I watched it, when the third season came out, I rewatched it from the beginning with Will because he had never seen it before, and he thoroughly enjoyed it. And so, yeah, it's a wonderful watch, and I'm really excited to see what Rose Matafeo does next.
Yeah. Ooh, I'm excited. I need to put this on my list. I feel like it's definitely a nice palate cleanser for a lot of like the horror and
it's a nice,
I've been watching recently.
light, fun time, but with like real emotional stakes.
Yeah. But
nothing too tragic.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going into comfort media mode, so I think this could be good for that too. Yeah. I told you that I'm rereading Ninth House again. So.
Oh yeah, you did tell me that. That's why we were talking about Jenna Ortega, because we were talking about who we think will be cast.
Yeah.
In the series adaptation, I was like, well, obviously Jenna Ortega's on the list.
Yeah. Yeah, if they can get her.
I'm sure she's very busy.
Yes. But yeah, that's always my like red flag. My red flag behavior is.
Yeah.
Rereading Ninth House. It's so good though. But yeah, I want to watch this very, very soon.
Oh yeah. And it's so quick too. You just fly right through it.
You know what I want to watch again? Fleabag.
You know, I just rewatched that a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, funny. Yeah, I've been thinking about it recently.
Yeah, man, it's so good. Ooh, when I was at Saltburn last night, I saw the theatrical trailer for All of Us Strangers, which is a film I've been looking forward to. That should be coming out in December, and Andrew Scott and Paul Mescal are both in that, and I cannot wait. The theatrical trailer was so good.
Yeah. Ooh, I need to watch that trailer. What was that called again? All of Us Strangers?
Also, you should watch the trailer for Eileen while you're at it. That's another December release I'm looking forward to.
Remy's Radar.
Remy's Radar. Boop, 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 boop.
What did you say that was called? Eileen.
Eileen.
My working memory is poor today.
It's got Anne Hathaway, Thomasin McKenzie, and Shea Wiggum.
That is a lineup. Sorry, I totally derailed your conversation about Starstruck, but
no, that was the concluding remarks.
Perfect. Yeah, that sounds so good.
She's awesome.
Friend diagram time.
Friend diagram. Let's make the friend diagram.
Yeah. What do they have in common?
What do they have in common? Well, do you want to start?
No, you start. I feel like I always start. I feel like you always like open the floor to me, and then I'm like, well, here's my best one.
Yeah. I always like to start with the larger ones, the softball ones. So obviously these are both heavily dealing with love and romance and the question of what makes people compatible.
Yeah. And there's good chemistry between your main characters.
Definitely good chemistry.
I mean, also, one thing I will add is just because Jeremy Allen White's character is intentionally not having good chemistry with Jessie Buckley's character, he's still like massively killing it. Like, he's so good. There's this part where he's like crying about a documentary, and it had me cackling, and I love him. He's a joy.
That's amazing. Yeah. Actually, speaking of that, there are other love interests in Starstruck besides Tom Kapoor, and they are also really good options.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I will say there's one really good one. There's other ones that annoy me that are like clearly mistakes from the past that come back to haunt Jessie. But there's future options that are great.
Okay. Is it your turn? I think it's your turn.
Oh, it is my turn. Imperfect main characters that make decisions you don't agree with, but you still understand why they're making them.
Yeah. Yeah. And in that same vein, I wrote self-sabotage.
Yeah,
So.
Absolutely. That is a huge part of Starstruck, is self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but like you're still rooting for them, or at least that's my experience with Starstruck, is like you see the self-sabotage, but you still want them to pull through.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that, I mean, for sure, you said it already, but Jessie Buckley, like you can understand why she's doing what she's doing, but you're like, I wish you wouldn't do it that way. But yeah, and I think that while Fingernails isn't a romantic it's not a rom-com in and of itself, but there is some nice moments of levity that largely come from the supporting characters. So there are like a lot of small supporting actors that are mostly the couples that they're interacting with and trying to help. And they're always very funny. There were multiple moments where I laughed in Fingernails, and that was all due to the supporting characters and how like quirky and weird they were being, but also like their vulnerability was very sweet in those moments as well. So I think like a good cast of supporting characters is nice. 100%.
That's an overlap with Starstruck, where you're like, these people are so weird on the side, but I love seeing like the chaos that they sew into the tapestry of this show.
Yeah.
They're excellent. Very funny.
Yeah. But I think that's my last one that I had.
Would you say Fingernails is meant to be present day or near future? Do you get a sense of that?
I think it's near future. Like, it could be invented today, and then that would be 5 years from that, kind of, you know?
Yeah, just curious.
Where, like, it's been out long enough that most of the people you know that are in relationships will have gotten the test. Because it's, like, mainstream like that, you know? And so, like, you'll meet new people, and you'll be like, oh, how'd you meet? Did you get tested? Like, and that's, like, a normal conversation.
Cool. Yeah, I think those are solid overlaps.
Yeah, I think they were 2 good picks. I'd love to know what you think about Fingernails if you end up watching it.
Yeah, I'm sure I will at some point.
Yeah.
And I obviously would love to know if you check out Starstruck.
Oh, then. You'll be hearing from me.
I hope so.
I don't like to keep my thoughts to myself. I'll be like, Rose, why are you doing this?
Rose, stop! Thanks for joining us this week on Friend Diagram. Thank you to Tyler Seek for the creation of our intro and outro music. Did you take any of our recommendations? Have any thoughts on the show? Let us know at frienddiagrampod@gmail.com, and we might read your email on a future episode. If you can, please take a moment to rate and review the show on your podcast app of choice, and we'll see you back here, same place next week. Bye for now.